to get this rolling, we're kind of resurfacing our intro we had with the man over here, Tyler Burk. But for everybody now listening, we got two newly appointed ambassadors. Chase Adair.
What?
Connor Isel.
When do I get my first paycheck?
Whenever we start making some money. But on today's episode, we have special guest Tyler Burk.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Tyler, it's good to have you. You know, like I was saying just a second ago, we tried to get something going during the Sandhill crane hunt, and it was rudely interrupted by Connor and Dawson. But give us a quick rundown. Who are you? What's your story, man?
Well, not too interesting. I'm a new hunter. I got into it probably about 5 years ago. Grew up going maybe once a year, once every other year, but probably about 5 years ago, started getting the itch for it, and now I'm hanging with these guys, trying to do as much as I can.
Yeah, you've been on the prowl to kind of get the gear you need to start on some of our Western game hunts.
This guy's got more gear than I do.
I'm a gearhead. It's a problem.
Look at him right now. He's dripped out in the Sitka.
Well, I'm coming from my white collar office job, so I threw the Sitka on to feel at home.
Let everybody know.
Yeah. What's that white collar office job that you're rocking? What is that?
I work at a large tech company, hardware manufacturing.
So you got money.
I wouldn't say that. It's steady, it's secure.
It's good. It's good. Well, so newly kind of into hunting, but you've always kind of been around it, or is this like, some friends have kind of really started to take it head on, kind of like golf with some people, and then all of a sudden you're a professional, or?
Yeah, my grandpa had a lease up near Waco when I was a kid, and we'd do like Thanksgiving trip, the whole family, and sometimes we'd shoot deer, sometimes we'd shoot Coke cans, but I really enjoyed being out there as a way to spend time with him. It was something that he liked to do. I honestly didn't care too much for it. I thought it was cool, but didn't really know a lot of people outside of him that did it, so it was still new and uncomfortable. And went to college, met my boy Dave, who was on the last pod. That's unfortunately going to get scrapped. Shout out to you, Dave. But Dave had a connect out in Abilene. He had a big ranch out there and asked me if I wanted to go hog hunting one time after finals, and we did it. We did it a couple times, and it was a lot of fun, and it's kind of where it started for me.
Would you say that your kind of newfound or resurfaced interest is because you've kind of have more of a appreciation for it?
Yeah, it's not the killing of the animal that gets me. Like, yeah. I could care less. I just like going out there. I used to camp and stuff. I've been on a couple trips to chase, go backpacking, stay out night and overnight, and that's what's cool, just being outside.
Awesome. Well, one thing I do want to talk about, and we talked about it a little bit on the recently scrapped podcast, is your hate for squirrel hunters.
Yeah.
Connor wasn't around for that, and I'm very curious to see the conversation.
Well, here's the thing. I thought about it after recording, and I'm not coming around.
I shouldn't have used the word hate. Oh, but you're not coming around.
I'm not coming around. I don't hate it, but I have a new understanding of why people do it.
I think we should go on if you go on a good squirrel hunt, you'll have a good
No,
time.
I won't do it. But I do understand.
You won't do it?
No. But I understand that it's a good introduction to hunting.
I think.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
Absolutely.
I don't think. I don't doubt that it's not a bad time. I think shooting squirrels is a good time, but I think it's like maybe the fascination around it. Like people taking grip and grins with squirrels on the back of the truck bed.
Yeah.
Like,
Go to r/hunting and type in squirrel, and it'll change. Like the amount of people doing this.
This is Reddit.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
The amount of people doing this was shocking. I thought this was like a.
Well, the reason that you're probably seeing all of those posts, though, is like there's a lot of, especially in Texas and I think in a lot of other states, like it takes permits to get, you have to have special draws to go hunt whitetail deer, or mule deer, or elk. Like, all you gotta do to hunt a squirrel is have a vehicle to get there.
Yeah,
and that's probably why you see all those posts. Is like the level of entry to squirrel hunting very low.
And I feel like squirrel hunting also may attract a different crowd, and that might be a lot of what you're seeing too. Is
I will say this.
I mean, right? Like, all the squirrel hunters I know, and there's not a lot. They're odd,
right?
Well, we were.
Unless you're at the top of the list.
Some public land around here, we were scouting, trying to find a little wood duck hole, just stumbling through the woods. And there's open squirrel hunting there. And we run into this feller that had a satchel on, looked like a homemade satchel.
Game bag?
And, dude, maybe. He was wearing it looked like towels. Like it didn't look like real clothes. And he had a wooden longbow in his hand. He looked like a character out of a video game. Scared the heck out of us whenever we ran into him.
He's hunting squirrels.
Hunting squirrels with a longbow.
That sounds like a good time, though.
Dude, I don't think he said he hadn't seen any squirrels.
Well, we could probably talk about squirrels and the people that we may have seen, but let's hear about what's going on this year with the season we've already had, because I feel like that's been pretty jam-packed with a lot of different things, from you or Connor and Chase, especially last weekend.
Yeah. I got to, we went hunting about 2 hours north of Austin, and got some
Public land?
private land. Just married into the land, so
Yeah.
comes with the territory. But no, my wife shot this was a 9-point on Friday night. Celebrated Thanksgiving, rolled out, went to the stand, and y'all saw the video.
Yeah.
I think y'all posted it on your Instagram page, but yeah, feeder went off at, I think we have it set to 4:30, 4:45.
Y'all were surrounded with deer.
There was, I need to go back and count them in that video, but I think there was probably 20 deer at the feeder. And, by 4:50, there's no corn left on the ground, and they're rolling out of there. So this guy was chasing some does and rolled in pretty late. I think she shot him at like 5:15. So he was just running around.
And it's getting dark at 5:30. That's sunset.
Yeah.
Legal light 6.
Yeah. And she laid the hammer down. He didn't go 20. And got him back. He didn't go 20. Got him back to the house. And
what was the text though that you sent where she didn't feel too confident?
Well, so Kylie likes to complain and say, whenever I see a buck walk out, I'm like, oh, big deer, big deer, big deer. And she grew up shooting some larger deer. So her idea of a big deer and my idea of a big deer is a little bit different. So that thing walked out, and I was like, big deer, big deer. And she threw up the binoculars, and she's like, okay. I was like, do you like him? Like, double checking. And she's like, yeah. So she threw up the gun because she knew he wasn't going to stay long, and because he was chasing those does. And, he was probably only there for 30 seconds before she pulled the trigger. And so she thought she rushed it a bit, and but she got him right in the money box.
Yeah.
And we got him back to the house. It was cold enough to hang him up overnight, so that was nice. Makes the cleaning job the next day a lot easier. And I woke up Saturday morning. We did some hunting with her dad, and I shot a 7-point little coal buck.
Another good deer though.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Kylie had you beat though.
Kylie had me beat.
Yeah.
I had her beat last year, so it's all right.
Yeah.
I was all right just shooting spikes and does this year. But so I shot him, and then we came back to the house, finished cleaning the deer from the night before, then gutted mine, and started processing it the next day. I think we got 25 pounds of breakfast sausage, 25 pounds of ground meat, and then
y'all process it all yourself, right?
Yeah, which if you've never done is quite the process. Like I'm still working on it.
Sweatshop.
Yeah, last night I stayed up till about 1 o'clock in the morning cutting on another ham for jerky. So it's a lot of work, but at the end of it, when you look at a freezer full of meat, it is one of the most rewarding feelings there is.
That's one thing. Like I joke around with Grace all the time, and Grace isn't she's not a venison eater. I think a little bit of that is at the fault of the cook, which is me. But you and Kylie, y'all don't have to go to HEB, man.
No,
I mean y'all turn it into dog food, right? Too, or y'all tried?
We tried.
Dogs didn't like it.
Arya liked it. The pit bull liked it. The
George don't like deer meat?
He'll eat it. Like, I'll feed him scraps whenever I'm cleaning, but we did a deer meat. What else did we do? Sweet potatoes, peas, carrots, and it messed his stomach up so bad that we just we decided not to do it.
We call my dog the gut pile dog.
Yeah.
That dude, he'll eat everything out of that. Like, you're sitting there cleaning a deer, by the time you look over, like half the gut pile is just gone.
He's got a heck of an immune system.
Yeah, he eats everything. Like, It's like, dude, why?
George can't do that.
What county is Goldthwaite?
Mills County.
Is it a $1 or $2?
Yeah, $1, and then you can shoot a spike that it can't be forked.
But y'all don't have an antler restriction, right? Does it have to be wider than the ears?
Yeah. Was that 13 inches basically?
I think it's 14.
Well, like for you, that's a good deer after last year's deer.
Oh,
absolutely, and he's a coal. He kind of needed to get out of there.
Yeah,
had some weird genetics.
Yeah,
but Kylie, that's one y'all gonna put up on the wall.
Probably not.
Yeah,
probably not. We have a tree that we hang them up in. There's probably deer up there from 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, that's cool. It's the family tree.
Yeah,
yeah.
But no, we've been blessed to be able to not have to buy meat from the grocery store, which is, it helps the wallet.
Helps the bank account, man. Right now we're in Austin.
It's trying times.
You leave the house, you're spending $100.
That's the way I look at it.
Y'all left the house 2 weeks ago and are spending $180 from a ticket now, huh?
I will say this: I have done a lot more research into the legal transportation of game after that, because there's always one, like, I think we kind of got let off a little easier because we do take like great pride in the preparation of the meat. Like, they're plucked birds, spatchcocked. Like, we're not just ripping breast out with like willy-nilly knife swings. Yeah. And so I always just kind of figured that, like, I like to take care of meat properly and not leave like heads and wings and things on. But I did a bunch of research into if you could debone out deer. So you can debone out deer and transport them in Texas. Actually encourage it because of...
Hold on. I want to take a step back.
Huh?
What prompted you to do all this research?
Because I got a ticket.
Why did you get a ticket?
Because I didn't have a feathered wing and or head on a few ducks that we were transporting from up north down here.
Public lake.
Public lake, yeah. The game warden stopped us the day before. Honestly, I think we got entrapped because I've never seen a game warden ride with a state trooper.
I hadn't either.
And I asked some of my law enforcement buddies. They said it's pretty rare. So
yeah.
So
but
they were out to.
Well, I have my game warden.
There's just nothing better to do up there.
We know the head of the Texas game wardens, and I have him.
Jonathan Gray's dad, right?
No. Like his boss.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
But I have him just doing a little snooping to see what this feller, I'm not going to say his name, see what this feller's track record looks like. because it's a little. I don't know. I think that's a weird. I always struggle with that word. Coincidence.
Coincidence.
Yeah, that word. I just think it's strange that we got pulled over when we got pulled over, where we got pulled over.
Yeah.
And the little poop eating grin that was on his face whenever he was walking up to the door.
Tyler, how familiar are you with a lot of the restrictions put on transporting and just, overall Texas parks and wildlife regulations?
Little to none.
So why would you think it's important to keep a wing attached to a breast before it makes it to its final destination?
Or fully feathered head.
Proof of sex.
Yeah, sex and species.
Sex and species. Which, does make sense. I feel like a picture should be, well, not necessarily, like a picture now, like in technology nowadays is, you take a picture and, there's the date on it. It's like where you are at. I feel like there should be some sort of implementation now, like, it's 2020, about to be 2025, where, if you don't have it attached, can you show?
This is my problem with it. So the way we like to do ducks, Chase saw, it's like you pluck it, and then you cut down the breastbone like you're de-breasting a dove with the skin on, okay? And then whenever you get down to the bottom, you pop out through the bottom and you keep going all the way down to the leg. So you have like basically half of a duck. There's a duck breast, skin attached, duck leg. It's all one rigmarole. It's challenging to get that one whole sleeve and then also have it be featherless, hairless, all that fun stuff. If I leave a wing on there, then it's hard to get the feathers and everything off. And then you have to cut the wing off whenever you get home. You got to basically clean them twice. And if you we have a new technique that we're going to do where we're going to do the same thing, leave the skin on the back, skin them all the way out the back, and then it'll be basically like a completely deboned duck, and we're going to leave the head on there.
Just leave the head?
Yeah, we're going to leave the head.
So it is head or one wing?
Yeah, you have a fully feathered head or a fully feathered wing. But I would like to ask that, I wish I could go back to that scene of us on the tailgate laying out all the duck. Because we had wings, but they weren't attached to the ducks.
We had, 4 wings?
We didn't save the wings from the last day because we were like, we're leaving. Like, we're not going to see it. We're not going to see old Mr. Green Jeans. Well, we saw Mr. Green Jeans.
I honestly never knew that was a rule because I don't waterfowl hunt enough. So,
all migratory species you're supposed to do it with.
Including crane?
And pheasants. I feel like crane probably should have done it with the cranes too. Because...
So when we went crane hunting the first time, the guide cleaned them, and he didn't leave the wings or the heads on there.
Yeah.
So,
well, what defines final destination?
That's another thing. I could have told him I live in my truck.
Yeah.
I spend more time in my truck than I do in my house.
Final destination, is if you're hunting somewhere and you're at an Airbnb, that final destination could be considered that, but then you have to drive home.
My question is like, what happens
home is final destination, I guess. Huh?
What happens if we're all getting together at Chase's house and Chase says, hey, can you bring over some ducks?
Yeah.
And I got a couple frozen ducks in the back of my truck.
I think that's got to be different.
Is it?
Is it? Yeah, that's the thing.
This is a messed up rule is what I'm getting at.
Final destination of ducks, final destination of any animal, how is that defined? And should there be some additional parameters set? Absolutely. I think.
Well, I think, honestly, the picture thing's a pretty good one. The thing that they don't like about the...
Well, now you can kill a deer, and you can have your license mobile, and you take a picture of the deer or where you killed it at, and it's all online.
Well, that's what I'm getting at with the deer, because of CWD.
Oh, yeah, back to that.
The CWD, they encourage you to debone deer.
CWD.
Also,
there's only... So if you move deer parts from the property that which you shot it at, like femur or whatever, has to be disposed of properly. And I looked into disposed of properly, and it is, you have to bury the dang thing 3 foot underground.
Yeah, it's a new rule this year.
Or you could put it in the landfill. Landfill's way easier cop out. Those are the proper disposal techniques for deer parts that are transported off. So they're encouraging you to debone it on the property. But then it gets into the, like, I'm not saying I'd ever do this because I care more about game laws than most people I hunt with. You know, I'm the one that always gets freaking tickets because I get stopped by like 8 green jeans a year at least. But
that's volume. That's volume of being out there.
Yeah, I could very easily kill 2 deer, debone it in a certain way, have it in my cooler, say it's 1 deer. And the amount of meat that I rip off a deer is way different than the amount of meat most people rip off a deer.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm done with the carcass, it is a bone. That's it. Like, there's not a blade of meat left on that thing. So it's like, how... I don't know. It's messed up.
No, it's a food for thought, especially as you continue to hunt and be aware of what's going on, and also follow the rules as best you can. But there's always a gray area where it's like,
I think they're always going to get you for something.
Yeah. A dove breast and a sparrow breast really, or like a dove breast and a blackbird breast, don't really look all that different, man.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't have to put a wing on a dove.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
it's because ducks are federally regulated. The feds are in there. Maybe Elon will strip that out of there. We'll see.
So Tyler, what would you say this hunting season's been kind of your highlight? I know we went on our sandhill hunt. Anything else going on, or a little recap on the sandhill hunt?
Yeah, sandhill was fun. I got one more trip in 2 weekends ago. Went down to Kendall County, my buddy, privately owned ranch. We've been going out there. This is our 4th year going out there. It's a lot of fun. It's an interesting place. He's got, say, probably 400 or 500 acres split in between 2 families, his dad and his uncle. We hunt their side. The people across are big up at Valero, and so they've got a big high fence ranch that they bring clients out to and take them out on those fancy guided hunts. And probably, I think it was 10 years ago, his dad said there was a big storm that knocked down a bunch of the fence, and so a lot of their game got out. So there's axis, antelope, whitetail, hogs, everything is out there. Yeah. We're kind of the only ones that hunt it. His little brother hunts it a little bit. But these deer are so domesticated almost.
Yeah.
Because
how many parts of the ranch borders up next to high fence?
It's across the road.
Okay, got it.
So they're not sharing a fence. I think there's a high fence on the back side of the property. I haven't really gone back there much, but the one that I'm talking about is across the road. So, I mean, they're coming from all over the place. But, yeah, it's cool. We're the only people who hunt it, so there's not deer stands out there or blinds or I think there's one feeder. I don't even know if it works, but, yeah, we just pick a spot against a tree and sit. So it's pretty cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, you got to be smart about, like, the wind and, like, what you're wearing, I'd say. But, like, it's weird because they had a bunch of cattle out there last year that they sold earlier this year. But the deer are so used to his family driving around on a Kubota or something. So when we're going out there to get to our spots, we're riding on the Kubota, there will just be a buck right next to the trail.
Hanging out, yeah.
Yeah, won't move, doesn't care. But the second that they see you walking out there, they get all sketched out.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's some long sits. Like, you got to get there, and you're probably not moving until it's time to go back because nothing's going to come near you.
Yeah. Well, deer are so much smarter than we give them credit for, I think. And I know we all assume that we have to hunt and get set up in the best possible way. But there are others, like a lot of people see videos, we're just sitting in a blind waiting on a deer to show up. But even if you're sitting in a blind, when a deer comes out, like, you got to be sneaky. You can't bump something because they're so familiar with the area. They know that there's this foreign object, and if there's anything off about it, you can get spooked quick. And sitting down in a field absolutely is, wind's important, what you're wearing is important.
Yeah, and I'm rifle hunting, so it's definitely easier. I don't know how you'd hunt that land with a bow. I don't think I could do it personally. I'm not skilled or experienced enough, but there's a couple tree lines that we'll pick a spot against, and there's 3 or 4 fields that are just empty. So you could see a deer that's 400 yards away. I probably wouldn't shoot at it that far, but
yeah.
I mean, you'll see stuff, but to get something close, and I got one like 2 years ago. It was like 150 yards, and that's probably out there the furthest shot that I would take.
Yeah. If you don't need to shoot any farther than that, why would you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you've gotten some opportunities out at some whitetail. Y'all see anything? Kill anything?
Yeah. So we got out there Thursday night. Friday morning, my first sit, I saw an 8-point. There's something about, like, I could have taken them, but it's the first hour that I'm out there.
Yeah.
Like, I let him go. He was a little young too. I probably wouldn't have shot him anyways, but yeah, I saw quite a few smaller 8-points. I ended up getting a coal buck. I didn't see any of the axis. Some of my buddies on the other side saw a pretty big axis. I think 38 inches is what his dad measured on the game cams.
So a gold star axis is 38 plus.
There you go.
So that's a big axis.
He came over from them high fences. He's probably a big boy.
Yeah. I mean, we saw 2 antelope out there. My buddy got one where it had been in a fight and one of its antlers was broken clean off. So he's gonna get that year amount. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Nice. Axis are cool. So that seems like a pretty cool ranch to see a little bit of everything, and you got your native species. So that's a good time. What about what would you kind of summarize the sandhill hunt?
That was my second time going. It was a lot different from the first time. Granted, the first time we went was one of my buddies from college, and he was kind of just one of those situations where we gave him a little money, what he owed the farmer for going out there, and then he kind of hunted with us. Yeah, I mean, we had an A-frame made out of a fence that he had zip-tied some grass to.
Yeah.
And it was simple. I think there was 6 of us maybe. This last time was a different story. I mean, we came out there, a whole hydraulic blind. Yeah. Like, somebody was mentioning the hydraulics. I don't even know what that's for, but it was intense. Like, I mean, you had plenty of room on the inside.
It was for a lot of bodies.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too, that, I had a great time with them boys, but I think I would have preferred to be just our group by itself.
Absolutely.
And the other guys are fine, but
they put us on some birds. They put in, the work to a certain extent, and it was a fun hunt.
It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's totally different than anything else.
I would say my highlight for that trip was when we first got there and Brennan pulling up. So yeah. This was, I wouldn't say this was cool because we're sitting here in this house and we're all just hanging out and we're outside and we just see this, pickup just slam on its brakes, back up. We're like, oh my God, like, are we supposed to be in this house? Like, what's going on? Is somebody about to pull up? And because he came in with some aggression, right? And Brendan pulls up and he's like, I don't know that. And like, as he's walking up, he's saying this out loud. I don't know that pickup. I don't know that pickup. I don't know that. But he's like, what are y'all doing? And come to find out, it's his house. Well, it's his brother's house, mm-hmm. and he lives right down the street. And we're on his land, and the outfitter we were with works, or Brennan gives them the opportunity to put some people out there as needed. But he was so cool. Like, as he just came up, he was like, yeah, I'll hang out. I'll drink a beer. And, gave us the tour of the barn, which had some awesome machinery. What was the car? It was Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, signed by the whole cast.
Signed by the whole
cast. It was incredible.
Yeah, that was really cool. And then he sat down, and we all came inside. We all tied one on. I think Connor really tied one on. What a line. And we were drinking a little bit of Fireball. But one of the conversations that came up was the windmills. Mm-hmm. And I know there was a lot of, as we live in Austin, as we drive to West Texas, and y'all still wouldn't even consider Lubbock West Texas, right?
Not true.
Not true.
Not true.
A lot of people do.
Texas.
It is West Texas, 100%.
Oh, it is West Texas?
It is.
No.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
okay, here we go.
Them folks from Lubbock consider it West
Yeah.
Texas.
So, and granted,
North.
Tyler went to Tech, but the conversation that was struck was, do windmills and or solar farms affect temperature? Right, that was one of the topics.
Rainfall.
Well, it affects
Rainfall.
just weather patterns.
Weather patterns. I know. I think how it started was, hey, did the implementation of windmills really affect migratory patterns, which I firmly believe. But then it got on to weather patterns. And Brennan, somebody that's out there day in, day out, strongly believes in that. And, that's a firsthand experience. But I think, Tyler, you've done a little bit of research since.
Yeah, and I want to preface this with there was a lot going on when we were talking about that.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I wish that I had more to offer on the topic at the time. Mm-hmm. I couldn't help but just spectate Brennan. I mean, he was fascinating. Like he was an interesting cat. Like we're having a whole conversation over here. I'm just fucking staring at him. But I mean, yeah, firsthand experience. I guess you take it with a grain of salt. But I did. I thought it was, when he said it, he said, they've got 20,000 acres. I think is how big their farm was. He was saying that they put up those windmills, and since then they haven't gotten as much rain. And he swears that it's because of the windmills. And he said it, and I looked at Chase. I'm like, this is some tin hat ass stories. Like, what are we talking about? I thought he was crazy.
And this is a perspective thing. It is. It has to be where, he's there, we're here, we're seeing all types of different things. And, that's a shock. It's like, no, like, what are you talking about?
I thought it was crazy.
Like, yeah, what are you talking about?
I looked at Chase, and I think he's the one who made me, like, the fact that he was entertaining the idea made me do research. Because I was like, why would Chase believe this guy? That makes no sense.
Well, when he first said something about the windmills, my jaw was on the floor. Like, I could not.
I do remember everybody's face. They were like, hold on, is this?
I mean, I could believe it.
No. And then
yeah.
he spoke and he gave his reasoning. I was like, okay, you know what? Like, maybe that does have some backing to it. But that first impression when he first talked about it was,
So what does
I could not believe it.
What does the research that you've done?
So
what do we got here?
I've got a couple people in the industry. I've got a good buddy by the name of Hunter. Shout out to you if you're listening to this, Hunter. He, this is like one of those memes you ever seen where it's like explain what your friends do for work. I don't actually know what he does, but from my understanding, he works at a renewable energy company, okay, and he is a lease contract analyst. So his company is essentially paying farmers to put windmills on their land, and then he goes and reviews the terms and all the lease agreements and whatnot.
Which is a very attractive lease agreement, from my understanding.
Yeah, 100%. So they've got a lot of business. So yeah, I talked to him about it. He says that he has no idea what this guy's talking about.
Yeah,
but to be fair, like you said, we're talking firsthand experience versus the man behind the screen.
And from what you've told me so far is from a man just working to get transactions done with private landowners.
Right.
He's on a different side of the coin.
Yeah.
No, 100%. So I consulted another contact. I spoke
Doing your due diligence.
Yeah, I spoke with somebody at NASA, and not being dead serious.
Okay. All right.
I wanted to say I did it because it would be funny, but I know somebody who used to work at NASA for 10 years.
Okay.
And I'm close with them, and they still have contacts over there. And so
credible source.
yeah, I asked them, hey, ask this person for me. And so she did. This is somebody at work that I know. She asked her NASA buddies about it, and basically the gist is like it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Reason being is because whenever you have these wind farms, they create microclimates.
Yeah.
So you have the change of airflow and humidity, warm air, cool air mixing, creates a microclimate. That makes sense to me, right? Yeah. The other thing he mentioned,
microclimates everywhere whenever, terrain and geographical.
Yeah. And the other thing that he
change.
mentioned, which was compelling, was there's something called like surface heat tension, which is when there was a previously hard ground, it somehow interacts with the humidity in the air and creates, I think it was like a 1 degree Celsius delta. But if you think about Lubbock, it's all loose topsoil.
Yeah.
At one point, whatever. What I thought was interesting about it was he said that it could have an effect on large wind farms.
And we would put some of the wind farms we saw probably in that category.
What
right?
would you classify as large? How many acres are we talking?
But here's the deal about wind farms: like
20,000 acres.
If you're driving around during the day, you don't really notice them, right? You're driving at night, and you're seeing all those red
They're
blinking
everywhere.
lights.
Thousands of them.
I mean, it's as far as the eye can see out there. Like, it's just red blinking lights every direction you turn. So it's like during the day you don't really see them.
Yeah.
Because you don't see that red blinking light.
I would say where we were at would be considered a large wind farm.
You said 20,000.
20,000.
It's got to be one of the largest
Yeah.
per capita in the country.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but I would. There's a bunch out there.
What would you say is a large wind farm?
Where we were, it's pretty large.
So I asked him, one of the questions that I told this lady to ask was, could this theoretically happen on a 20,000 acre farm?
Because I think that's what Brennan had.
Yeah. And what he said was 20,000 acres could be large enough. Could be large enough.
That is a scientist response.
Could be large enough.
Could.
Insinuating he's talking about 100,000 acres.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And he actually said that it's more common the larger that it is.
well, what really got me made me believe it more is he said the hailstorms are worse because of the solar farms, which makes sense because Josh is a roofer. He knows how hails form. Hot air going up, pushing the rain up higher. You have all those
just
black
bouncing off of them.
You have all those black panels out there. Mm-hmm. Like, that's their job, is to absorb heat. Of course, they're going to be way hotter than everything else.
Yeah.
You know,
It's interesting.
I am extremely excited that you did that research, and I do want to absolutely appreciate it. I do want to think that people that work at NASA, that's the conversations they want to have during their lunch break.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that RCRL has that reach, and that we're really getting on the map here. But I mean,
Talking to NASA, dude.
Talking to NASA.
Yeah, I mean, she sent me like a screenshot of all this, and it was a bunch of scientific jargon. But the thing that really caught my eye is 20,000 acres could be large enough.
Yeah,
we're talking. I mean, they got those windmills in Goldthwaite, and we're talking all the way up to Nebraska. Mm-hmm. It's millions of acres. Mm-hmm. So the evidence is compelling. I mean,
so would you now, with the new evidence you've discovered and the research you've done, lean more towards Brennan's firsthand experience and response that, in conclusion, wind farms can, or as far as even saying could, affect weather patterns?
So I went into the county almanac and I tried to find rainfall historicals over the past couple of years, and their rain, it's about 4,500 feet above sea level. They average about 19 inches of rain per year. Okay. So I'm trying to go year by year and see how that was, what the trend variated. Is. And the rainfall is decreasing. That's fact. Okay. So he's not wrong on that front.
Have you been able to look into when these windmills
started? I couldn't find anything.
Can I
2010.
Yeah.
I think that's really where it picked up.
Can I bring something up that may sway one way or the other? So if you think...
Don't say global warming.
No, I'm not. But if you're trying to decide if these windmills have an effect on the climate, one, go look underneath one, and you'll see a bunch of bird bones. A bunch.
You ever seen a windmill graveyard?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Number two is these windmills that they put in the ocean are having an effect on whales as well.
Yeah. The vibrations, the sounds,
so
and where they're at.
If it's having that sort of effect, then one can only think that it might have an effect on the climate.
So in conclusion, one way or another, windmills could be good, but also I would say definitely have an effect on that outweigh the pros of windmills.
I would agree.
Of the environment. That would be RCRL's conclusion.
I care about prairie chickens. I don't like windmills.
Well, I think this is a good time to give old Dakota Spell a call. Dakota, we are working on getting a more effective way to call in somebody remotely, but what we're going to do here today is we're going to give Dakota a call, and Dakota is going to introduce a new segment that we would like to implement into our podcast, which is the re-experience the outdoors surprise question segment.
Oh, wow.
Portion of the show. What this includes is Dakota is going to ask a question. It may or may not be directed towards one individual. And what the point of it is to open up a conversation for us and people that listen to re-experience the outdoors. So let me give Dakota a call. We'll see what he's been pondering, because I gave him a quick heads up on this, and see if he even answers right now. Dakota.
Yo.
Welcome to the recasted, reloaded show that you have not been able to be a part of for the past couple podcasts, and we apologize for that, because Dakota lives in DFW. I now live in Austin, but Dakota has always been a key player in what we put together for the viewers.
Yeah, you know how it's done.
Well, I was just talking about how we're gonna start implementing our re-experience the outdoors game show here.
Game show.
Oh yeah. Well, I wanted to break in. I had a question. Long-time listener, big fan, first-time caller. So, Tyler, questions for you, buddy. So, do you remember? So, more or less, do you remember the first time that you fell in love with hunting? Like that moment where you're like, "Oh my God, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life." Second part of that, a little two-parter. Like, what happened and changed in your life after you realized that?
That's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. I would say 2019. I had just finished finals, and my buddy, I mentioned this part of this earlier, but my buddy Dave said, "Hey, I'm going out to a town called Buffalo Gap, just outside of Abilene. You got a ranch there. You want to come shoot some hogs?" I had nothing better to do, so, sure enough, I went with him. And my buddy Dave, I mean, y'all met him. He's a walking Adderall. The guy can't sit still. There's no such thing as like sitting on the couch watching ball. Like, he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So the idea to him of like sitting in a blind doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So he's talking about this idea of foot stalking a pack of hogs. And in my mind, I'm like, you are out of your mind. Like, I hear all these stories about people getting trampled and just all types of horror stories. I didn't want to sissy out, so I went with him, and he's leading the pack, and we're just cutting through brush and following a pack of like 20 hogs. And it was the most intense thing that I had done, I think, at that point in my life. Like, heart's beating. Like, I had this massive gun with a thermal scope. Like, I'm so green out there. It was dusk, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I was so green out there. It was overwhelming almost. We ended up getting quite a few, and just, I don't know, the rush that I got from it was cool, and I knew I wanted to do it again. So yeah, I think I forget what part 2 was, but there's part 1.
Well, thank you for that response. That was, I kind of felt like I was there. I'll be honest.
Oh, yeah, I did too. It was a good story.
Dakota, what was part 2?
It was what happened, changing your life afterwards. Like, is this an every weekend kind of thing? Every season now? Like, you just going out slinging?
I go as much as I can. I mean, my family, we don't have any land or anything, so all the opportunities I get are through an invite. So, without bothering people, I go as much as I can. I go probably 2 or 3 times a year.
I think that the thought of bothering people, and Connor and Chase probably know this about me more than most, is the worst thing somebody can do is say no. And I always am somebody that is going to ask. There is a limitation to it where it's like, okay, are you just being annoying, or do you genuinely want to do this? And every time I ask it, other than, trying to get a free like taco from Taco Bell, I do it with intention. And I think as long as you do it with intention and you do it with the idea that you hope to, because it's something you would really like to do that you've never gotten the chance to do it, most people will say no. If not, then, worst thing they can do is say no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. My thing is like, my buddy's family and his ranch, they're big into the game management aspect.
Yeah.
So every year we go out there, and he's like, all right, there's 6 whitetail, big buck that we've seen on the camera. You can take one of them. There's 2 big axis. Those are off limits. Doe, you got there's
hunting inside of rules.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules, and so it's
rules.
Well, I mean, it's just they're trying to preserve it for the future, which I totally understand, and it's like it's special to them, like it's something that they do together as a family, and so I could have gone out there and shot a deer every single day, every single time I've been out there. We're talking that could have been 15 deer by now.
Yeah,
I've taken 3.
Yeah.
So
that's what makes you an individual that like a lot of people would feel to invite. Right.
If you're listening to that out there and you want to invite me,
Tyler
feel
Burk.
free.
I got you, buddy.
That's how I hammered my invites to Double J.
Yeah, Double J, baby. Yeah,
Keep asking.
Roll it up in the Toyota Corolla.
Go to Alaska, be the only one that doesn't get a caribou, and then just beg your friends to go on their land. Make them feel bad about it. That plays out.
Well, Dakota, that was a fantastic question. Tyler, even better answer. Dakota, I appreciate your willingness to put that together and coming in for a quick little jump in on the show. I know, like I recently discussed, we're going to get this set up to where it's more approachable for you to sit in on this remotely.
Yep. Or who knows? I might just move down.
Yeah, just
do it.
Move to Austin.
We'll see.
Everybody else is
All
here.
right, boys. That sounds good. Much love. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right,
Later, Cole.
bye.
All right, bye.
One of the other things we didn't talk about that crane hunt, and I saw it the first time I went too, but the energy and passion that these guys have for smacking crane
Oh my gosh.
gets me going.
Yeah. No,
Like they were hype
Yeah.
out there chasing after the birds.
that was good. You know, one thing I did recognize is the immediate cigarette right as they showed up.
Obligatory.
Yeah, just but like as birds were flying, just the tone and the voice of like kill these birds, and then as soon as they were shot, you know, it was like a man turned into a dog and just got to moving, and it was okay. Birds are dead. Sit back down, or like the birds are gonna start flying again.
Tuck in.
Tuck in.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a lot of fun. Like, obviously, you want to limit out, but I mean, when we went the first time, there was a couple of us, and we were close to our limit. So my buddy, I think he picked 3 of us, and we stood up. There's, I don't know, 6 birds flying in, and he's like, "I'm a video, y'all." Gets his phone out. We're going. We're in the hut. We're like, "All right, let's do it." Birds come in. He's like, "All right, limit out, boys." 3 of us stand up, and all you hear is every single one of us had our guns on safety. And it was just like the laughter after that, like everybody was just cracking up laughing. He was like, you can hear him in the video, he's like, "What the hell?" But it's just a lot of fun.
And like what I'll say to that, because that's a key moment, is in every time we've gone, or me personally, and I imagine y'all could probably speak to this, is every time you've gone on a hunt or a fishing trip or even just a camping trip, there's that one thing. And 9 out of 10 times for me, it's not the fish I caught. It's not the, deer I killed or the animal I killed. It's something like that.
Yeah.
It's just the experience of being there.
Experience being there, calling man.
Doing things you ain't never done before.
That primal instinct, that bringing it back to where we started.
I've started associating songs with trips.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like,
Give us an example.
Yeah,
So-
what's your Lubbock song?
I'm working on a Lubbock song.
All right.
You got the old Green Jeans ticket song?
No, I don't have that one. Like major trips, like Alaska. Alaska has one. Shout out Troy Stewart. It's Daylight, and then my whitetail hunting song is "The Road Goes On Forever, but the Party Never Ends."
Yeah, that's a good one. I know what mine is for Alaska.
Yeah.
Connor knows.
Oh well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one too.
So-
That's a good one too.
Beautiful things.
Yeah. It's a good song.
So we, and I'll keep this short and sweet. I don't think I talked about it last time whenever we did the Alaska recap. But as we were coming back, sleep deprived, it's like 2 a.m. Only bit of darkness you get in Alaska. We're all just dead asleep. Connor's driving. He's ripping through the Dalton Highway, and I've never heard somebody so passionate about a song, and it was "Beautiful Things" by Brian Benson, one of those. But Connor just starts ripping this song up, at the top of his lungs, and every time I hear that song, I remember the screech that Connor was able to produce with his vocal cords, but also everything else that happened on that trip immediately comes back. So but that's a great point, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's not like every single trip. Like, I don't have one for like the duck hunt we did a couple weeks ago. But it's like if something happens, like it just brings back a flood of memories from that trip. That's pretty cool because have it on my you got it on your Spotify liked, and you'll just be shuffling through and you'll hear it. And you're like, oh, there it is. I remember everything that happened.
well, senses, and this may go a little off topic, but it's something to consider. Is senses are affiliated with memories, and those include, smell, taste, and certain songs. And that's why people study the music, is you hear a certain song, you retain information better. And that, as a outdoorsman, we have a ton of senses happening simultaneously all at once. But as you like sit back and you try to think of a certain situation or story or event that you were in and you can't remember it, you know, you could just completely it go right over your head. Then you like run across that one smell and it all comes back, which is insane.
Yeah.
It's the cedar. It's, you know, the mesquite. It's
The dust.
The dust. It's, you know, the fireball. As crazy as that sounds, is like, you know, fireball brings a ton of memories back towards me. You know, not all good, but all good stuff. All good stuff. So I do have a question to prompt another conversation, but I would like to open the field if somebody would like to discuss something. It could be related to current seasons we're in. You know, we talked a lot or a little bit about, you know, our windmills. We talked a little bit about regulations behind waterfowl. Anything anybody would like to throw out there for our listeners and for us in particular.
Okay, I got some.
All right, Mr. Chase Adair on the mic.
So on top of my whitetail hunting last weekend, I went turkey hunting, and I guess I went turkey hunting with you guys last probably April for the first time. I say turkey hunting. We just went to go down there and see if we could call anything in.
It was a bust.
And so I go down there Sunday night, and I get down there like 3:20, 3:30, and I get one of those like scratch call boxes, because I don't know how to use the diaphragm calls just yet. So
Yeah.
I'm using this scratch box, and as soon as I start calling, I hear them from across the fence. And they're calling back to me. I'm calling back to them. And it's fall turkey hunting in Texas, so, you know, most people would say that's probably not that exciting. You know, they probably tell me to wait around until the spring. But we're calling back and forth to each other. And I end up calling these turkeys in like 30 minutes later. They roll in about 4 o'clock. And it's like 2 jakes and 3 hens. And I was like, oh my God, like, you know, I've always heard this turkey hunting thing's like they're notorious for skirting you. And I just called them in on my first hunt. So I was pretty pumped up. And there was another group across the fence line. And the idea was that the turkeys that I had called in would call in that other group, because I wasn't going to shoot any toms. And I'm still just kind of trying to learn how to turkey hunt. So these birds end up sticking around for like 20 minutes, and then they end up flying off, and I get them to roost on the neighbor's property probably 150 yards away. And so I go down there the next morning. As soon as I sit down, I got down there about 5:45, start calling to them. They're calling back to me again. I was like, oh, this is great. You know, sun comes up. Everything I've read, as soon as they can see the ground, they're gonna start moving towards you. So I'm calling towards them. They're calling towards me for probably 45 minutes, and then nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
They just go ghost mode.
And I was like, okay, well, you know, that sucks. Like, I had them roosting right there. I thought I was going to get one this morning. So I go down there Monday night before I come back to Austin, and nothing called back to me. But I guess my question is, like, these turkeys haven't been called at in probably 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, from everything I've heard from Kylie's grandmother when she goes down there to sit,
Sweet buddy.
they'll just come into the feeder. Usually, most of the time that she sees them in the evening. I've seen them down there in the mornings, but it's like a gang of, 20, 30 of them that'll roll in. And I'm just wondering, like, is me calling at them? Someone hadn't called at them in 10 years. Do you think that either my calling skills aren't that great? I thought they were. I called them in the first day in the first 30 minutes, but it's either that or they're like, okay, someone's calling from over there. Something fishy's going on.
So, like, the interesting thing about turkeys, and like, you're doing it in the fall, and the fall is just like, in the spring, you got gobblers trying to breed.
Yeah.
A little different. But in the fall, they're just talking to each other like, hey, what's up, man? I'm over here. You know? And, like, they have their own little lingo. If you really listen to turkeys real close, like, they make an infinite amount of, like, really weird, strange sounds.
I think
But where I'm going with this is, like, typically, you know, like you said, that's like a 15, 20 pack of turkeys. You're like a one pack of, like, one turkey.
Yeah.
So, like, in nature, you would go to them.
Makes sense.
They wouldn't come to you.
Makes sense.
Like, they're like, hey, we're all up over here.
You come
know,
to
this
us.
is where the party's at. What are you doing over there?
Yeah.
And then whenever you don't show, they're like, well, we're going on with our day. You know, Jeffrey over there, he'll catch up.
So what's the play?
Well, that's the thing is like that's
Seasonal.
the whole. Well, that's the whole thing about even in spring. In spring, the gobbler, like if you watch gobblers, they'll go out into a field and they'll do their gobble and they'll strut around in a field and hens will come to him because he's like the biggest, baddest gobbler in the world. Whenever you kill a gobbler, you tricked him. You got him to go against what he normally does. He came to you, and then you kill him. It's turkey hunting's a little like it's getting them to do what they don't normally do.
Yeah.
it's a weird thing to think about, but compare like a group of turkey or animals in general to like a human is, you know, when you're hungry, especially this time of the year for turkeys or, you know, just in general. And, you know, there's a reliable food source and they're there. That's where you were at originally. So they were there. And then, you know, they take off. If somebody's screaming at you like, hey, I got some Twinkies over here and you're just not hungry, are you going to like go out of your way to come get that Twinkie?
Yeah. It's fair.
Or, you know, like to Connor's point, as human nature operates, you got, you know, mamas and some old guys hanging out. If they're all right there, what, like, unless there's just no other option, why are they going to come to you?
Yeah.
Unless it's just that time of the year.
Yeah, animals are real. Food, water, shelter, sex.
You can never.
That's it.
Yeah, you can never.
They don't care about anything else. Food, water, shelter, sex.
And you can never assume anything that they should be doing this, they should be doing that. It's okay. I'm doing the best I can. If it works out, it works out. Like I know I'm calling right, and I know like right now, as you're saying, you're new to a box call, and you know I'm definitely nowhere near where I need to be, but I imagine that you're doing what you needed to do to get them over.
Yeah. I mean, again,
It just they didn't want to do it.
yeah. Again, it was the first
cool
real. It was the first. It was really
called
fun.
him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you called him in?
I called him in. I mean, that got my heart racing, man.
Yeah.
It's fun calling in turkeys.
It's just I'm just trying to figure them out, you know, because
And that's the game we play every single day with any animal we like to hunt.
yeah.
Just trying to figure them out. As soon as you got them figured out, there's something else they want to do.
So I'm excited for the spring because
Yep.
it was quite the thrill calling them in like that. But yeah, just wanted to know what you guys thought.
I got a question.
I got an answer.
It's for Connor.
Connor's got an answer.
So we were talking about getting invited and going on more hunts.
Yeah.
Every year, me, my dad, and my uncle, we go to this golf trip. It's all of my dad and my uncle's buddies. And now that I've gotten older, I've started going too and getting to know some of those guys. One of the guys, I haven't seen him in probably 5 or 6 years. He lives down in Houston. We were out in Montgomery, so he came. And he's a big pheasant hunter. And, you know, he goes to South Dakota, which we talked about doing. That would be awesome. Yeah, so he's retired, recently retired. This is all he does every week, just hunts something. He's got some land down in San Saba, and he was talking about
pecan capital of the world.
He was talking about bringing me out to go out there one day. He's got 2 dogs that are flushers or whatever you call them, and he said something like buying 100 pheasants.
Yeah, cage hunts.
That's crazy. You just buy them, and like, well, how do we feel about that?
Wait,
So
that's the first hunt I ever did was a cage hunt, pheasant and chucker hunt in Utah.
Do you let them out in the morning and then?
all right, I'll walk through it.
Please.
First, I've done a lot of upland game bird hunting for probably 8 or 9 years now. Every hunt I've ever been on, pure wild birds. Mm-hmm. Pure wild birds hunt a lot different. They're smart as all get out. If you're really hunting a lot of heavily pressured birds, you gotta have super smart dogs to be able to figure out those birds. And you have to know how the birds move around the field. Caged hunts, you can do it a handful of different ways. We used to train our dogs with these little flushing machines with caged birds where like we'd put a bird in this like slingshot looking shindig. It had like a little net in the bottom of it and 2 little springs, and it had a long string on it, like 25-yard string.
I wish everybody could see how you were just describing that. That was really good. Connor's hands are moving in directions I've never seen.
So you'd put the bird in there, lock the bird in there, so the wings were up.
It's like a pull gate.
Straight up and down, and you had this long string you'd put upwind of or downwind of the bird. So you'd walk the dog in there, and the dog would come in, and this is whenever we were training pointers, and the dog would point up on that bird, and then you know, good boy, and then you yank that string, and that it'd make the bird. The cage is like this, and it'd make the bird, you know, it'd throw that thing up in the air, and then you'd shoot it, because that's a reward to the dog. Mm-hmm. I think cage birds are a really good training tool. It's a good time if that's the only option. If that's the only option that you have, is like you're living in a state that used to have quail, used to have pheasant, and now just due to windmills or whatever, there's not quail or pheasant there anymore. Or if you got a rich buddy that's willing to pay for it, because this is an expensive endeavor, you can do it. Now, a lot of those guys, what they're doing is they're taking those birds, and we used to do this too after the dog would get good at the flushing thing, is you take the bird and put it in a 5-gallon bucket and spin that bird around, get her real nice and dizzy, and then tuck that bird into a little clump of grass. You put out like 6 of them, and then you drop your dog down, and now that bird, he's all dizzy, and then 30 minutes later kind of comes to his senses, realizes a safe area. He might hang out there, might just start maneuvering around, but they're not going to go far. And that gets the dog to be able to like find where the bird scent is, hunt the bird scent down, lock in on the bird, and then they'll flush it. I think if you have a good population of wild birds, you should be hunting the wild birds. To do caged birds is kind of a pansy man's game.
Is that your direct? What's your direct question to that? Is it okay or is it not, or is it like just frowned upon?
I mean, I think he's frowned upon, because I think he's just doing it to work his dogs. Like, he's not going out there to hunt. He's going to do it anyways, because that's his thing, is to work with his dogs. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I'm going to be doing this. If you want to come and shoot some, you can.
I would look at that the same way I look at high fence.
It's worse than high fence. At least high fence, there's some sort of a hunt. I mean, you're spinning them around in a bucket, throwing them down on the ground.
But like, I look at it as like,
oh gosh, here we go.
If personally, I would never go on a high fence hunt. But let me preface that with, if someone said, "Hey, come shoot this deer on my high fence ranch for free," I'm gonna go shoot that deer on the high fence ranch.
Yeah,
and that's how I would look at that. Is like, if he's inviting me out there for free, I'm gonna go out there.
Yeah.
I
it's a fun time. I've been on cage hunts. It's a good time.
I'd imagine it is.
And
It doesn't have the same satisfaction.
Look at where I'm at now and where I started. I started with the cage hunt. I think it's a great avenue for...
Well, it's like I said, if it's all you got.
And
I've never been pheasant hunting.
Yeah,
so
it's one of those things where it's like, you bring a kid to go fish to keep them interested as a younger individual. It's good to see some action.
Oh, yeah. If you took a kid on some of the pheasant hunts I've been on, they'd never step foot in another field ever again in their life.
If you take some
little character,
if you take a kid fishing on some of the fishing trips I've been on, they would be like, "Why would I ever do this again?"
Yeah,
For me, and I feel like a lot of other people is it a good avenue to start? Absolutely. Is it something that is a good opportunity to get your dogs some action and train them? 100%. Is it something that some person's like, I do this every year, this is all I do? At that point, it's like, okay, you just want to go kill. You're going to end up shooting some birds.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person that you justify the success of a hunt off of whether or not if you got a limit or not,
yeah,
cage hunt's for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're the kind of person that wants like gratification for what you did, wild birds is where it's at.
Mm-hmm. And I would not say the same thing about high fence hunting. It depends. And Chase, we could probably talk about this.
If you got invited to go on a cage hunt, I'll go on one tomorrow.
Oh, I'm going. I was just I'd never heard of this before, so
Well,
it's expensive. It's like I don't know what they run nowadays, but I know whenever we were training pointers, probably 10 years ago, it was like $10 a bird, which I'm sure it's even more now, with the old inflation and all that stuff. But like, it's expensive.
Inflation hits every point of the economy, including cage hunting.
Including cage hunting. Well,
and cage hunting, like if you're sitting here listening to this, it's like cage hunting. They're not in a cage whenever you're shooting them. They're in a cage. They're raised birds, and then they're let go, and that they're gonna stick around for a little bit.
And also, scientifically speaking, they have like very, very, very small chance of surviving in the wild. Mm-hmm. Because they because
people talk about that and they're like, oh, like the birds we don't shoot, they're dead. Yeah, 100%. It's like raising a a certain type of fish in a tank that you're feeding every single day, or you're taking a bobcat that you've raised and then everybody's like release it back into the wild. Maybe there's definitely some instinct that kicks in, but
they're done.
Yeah. They're not going to last long.
Yeah, hawk's going to get them. Fox going to get them.
Well, Tyler, as Connor and Chase, they've been on the show a couple times before. One of the questions I always like to end it with, and it's RCRL's motto is what's your why when it comes to hunting and fishing and the outdoors in general? Why do you do it?
I don't know. I mean, I said it earlier. I just like being outside. I sit in a desk inside the AC fluorescent light all day, 5 times a week. Mm-hmm. So it's just like the separation from your phone and it's almost like going to another world. Like you forget about all the stuff that's going on and you just get to enjoy nature and take it for what it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't have an obsession with killing animals or chasing trophies. It's really just being out there and getting outside.
Yeah.
Made some of the best memories of my entire life on hunting trips.
That's a great response, and I'm trying, like right now, after you said that, I'm trying to find this quote that Jackson Hall shared with me. Actually, I think it's right here. And it's a good quote to reflect what you just said, where, so this is from Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth. So you must have a room or a certain hour or so a day, or you don't know what was in the newspapers that morning. You don't know who your friends are. You don't know what you owe to anybody. You don't know what anybody owes to you. This is a place where you can simply experience and bring forth what you are and what you might be. This is the place of creative incubation. At first, you may find that nothing happens here. But if you have a sacred place and use it, something eventually will happen. For the hunter, the whole world was a sacred place. But our life has become so economic and practical in its orientation that as you get older, the claims of the moment upon you are so great that you hardly know where the hell you are or what it is you intended. You are always doing something that is required of you, which is definitely our day-to-day as we work and as we, build our life through the concept of money. Where is your bliss station? You have to try and find it. I think that's a great quote. I think it's a good idea and good thought to have, and I think, your response to what's your why definitely reflects that.
Yeah, man, it's basically what I said.
Yeah.
Not so many words. Yeah.
But Tyler, man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving us the rundown of like your upbringing as you continue to recultivate back into the outdoors and hunt, and definitely your research you were able to provide from some very credible sources from NASA. I think getting to say the word NASA on here is nice.
Growing the brand.
Yeah,
It's made it, man.
yeah, it's made it.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
You got a Instagram or at anybody that wants to find you so they can send you a request to come hunt at the place?
Yeah, my Instagram is Tyler Burk, Burrk, 2 R's. It's not actually how I spell it, but original handle was taken. Shoot me some DMs. I want to go on some hunts. I've only gone as far as Lubbock, so looking forward to seeing what's out there.
I like it. Re-experience the outdoors.